you for joining today. This is the Career Opportunities in the Battery Industry Powering Your Professional Future webinar. So hello and welcome to this exciting webinar. We're very excited for you to join us as we explore career opportunities, industry insights and practical advice to help you navigate the battery career fair and build a successful career in the industry. So my name's Lauren Allinson. I am the project director for the Battery Career Fair and recruitment consultant at Strative Group, where I support battery professionals and companies grow their talent pipeline. So true to the Volta Foundation spirit, we wouldn't feel right if we didn't ask you to drop us a message in the chat to let us know why you've joined us today. So please do go ahead and do that so that we can do some shout outs. That would be great. And I guess I should also let you know that we will be sending out, well, doing a Q&A later after the session, further along in the session. So yeah, today we have an esteemed panel of industry leaders who will share their expertise on hiring trends, career pathways, workforce development, and future industry opportunities. So let's begin with introducing our panelists. If I can hand the limelight to Chad.
Sure. Hi, my name is Chad Bamberg. I'm the Director of Marketing for American Battery Solutions. I've been in marketing communications on the mobility side for almost 30 years now. I've worked with both passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, and industrial vehicles. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Chad. I'll pass it over to Jill.
Yeah, just real quick, people are messaging that chat's been disabled. So, okay, never mind. It's been solved. So good.
It's coming through. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Pastana. I'm the founder and CEO of Pastana Solutions. I'm a battery scientist and engineer who's gone into consulting and everything. So really excited to chat with everyone here.
Thanks, Jill. Andrew, thank you for helping technically. Over to you.
Yeah, hi, everyone. So glad to be here. My name is Andrew. I spent time with Volta Foundation to write the battery report. We also launched a census to give insights into workforce trends and skill gaps that I'm excited to shed some light on today. Before this, I spent 10 years at Tesla, and I was involved in an engineering role in battery cell engineering. So I'm happy to be here and try to shed some insights on that, and really excited to be here.
Thank you, Andrew. And Ajay, over to you.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Ajay Gnanasekharan. I'm the Senior Program Director for Battery Workforce Challenge at Oregon National Laboratories. Been in manufacturing for almost 15 years and in battery EV space for the last 5 years. Really excited to be here. Thank you.
Amazing, thank you. And now that the chat is available, I'm going to do some shout outs. So we've got Laura in Colorado. Thank you so much for joining us. Todd from the Bay Area. Amazing. Thank you thank you so much for being here. Got Harold from Colombia, but connecting from Sweden. Definitely a global presence here today. Andy from Charlotte. Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here. And I guess to make sure this session is as interactive as it can, please put your thoughts and questions for our panelists in the chat as we navigate today's session. So let's dive into our first topic. So career fairs can be extremely overwhelming, especially for early career professionals. What are hiring managers and recruiters looking for at career fairs, and what will make a candidate stand out? That's over to you, Ajay.
So, thank you, Lauren. So from an early career aspect, it is very scary as you go into these career fairs, multiple recruiters and multiple hiring companies, and how do you pitch yourself? So I always kind of follow a few ground rules, and I think that's really helpful depending on for all stages of your career. I would say from doing the research on the company and on the recruiter as well. Sometimes who's coming in for this recruitment, and just kind of knowing what their background is kind of helps you to, tailor your communication. And going in, don't ask for a job immediately, right? Everybody is there to ask for a job. So be genuinely curious and like thoughtful. And I always like to ask about the challenges the company is facing and kind of tailoring your conversation to that. That gives them more nuggets to remember you as that person. Oh yeah, I chatted with that person and they said they were able to solve X, Y, and Z. And that's much more of a takeaway for them. And also learn to read your audience. Sometimes when you go in, there's an engineer who is in the booth and you are going for a non-technical role. It sometimes might not easily, there might be a lot of loss in translation there. So how do you kind of tailor your conversation to that person? And it can be as simple as, hey, I'm not technical, but this is what I've been working on. And is it a way you could introduce me to a person who would be able to help me with this? I always say everybody carries a different scorecard. So make sure that how do you kind of tailor your conversation towards that? And to stand out, I think there's more to just like you talking during this time. How do you follow up? Be genuinely thankful. Again, be politely persistent. There's a way of like following up, not trying to be overwhelming. And I always say this: handwritten notes still work. I've hired several people just because they remembered and they just wrote me a thank you note and then left it to my admin. And I was like, that was really nice. So those are the things that you can do. And I think this template for different levels of career experience can kind of vary a little bit, but it always works.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't agree more. It's about being genuine, isn't it? And that can come across over online, virtual career fair, or in person as
exactly.
well.
Yeah.
Jill, have you got any thoughts on that?
I would agree with everything AJ said. Really, I think the first step is just demonstrating that you actually have an interest in the company. A lot of times people enter those spaces and kind of blindly be like, I'm just looking for a job. And you may feel that nervousness and that like, oh, I just need to like let them know I want to work here. But like approaching it more thoughtfully, knowing the team, knowing the challenges, and connecting your experience with the challenges that that company is facing is the way to go. So I love that you said that, AJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yes, I guess being in recruitment, that's something that we always say. You want to apply to a job that you're actually interested in, a company that you're interested in, where you can add value. There's no point in just applying for everything and hoping that it sticks. But yeah, really appreciate your thoughts on that. Networking. So it is crucial at a battery career fair, at a career fair in general, in fact. Candidates often wonder how to make a lasting impression. So what are the best questions to ask potential employers, and how can candidates effectively showcase their passion and skills as well? And I guess that, Chad, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think it's important to ask questions about the culture of the company, about the culture of your team itself. It's also important to ask questions about your team in particular. How many people are on my team? How does my role interact with the team and my team members? Ask about the management, your senior or executive leadership. How do I interact with them? How is my role supporting, the executive leadership team at that level? Ask about growth within the position, ask about growth within the corporation, the company's future itself. Making lasting impressions, being yourself, we'd mentioned that already. I think that's incredibly important. You can try to fake it up front, but eventually if you do get this role, you're going to be working with team members for years to come. So, being yourself is that much more important. And following up, making sure that after you've had that conversation, you're following up in a timely fashion, I think is incredibly important as well. And showing enthusiasm, just demonstrating that you're excited about the industry and the opportunity itself. So some of the good things.
Brilliant, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Jill, have you got thoughts on that?
Yeah, so again, it's echoing, showing interest, and Chad, you highlighted that. I would just add to, when you're approaching a company and asking questions about the role, it's really just at the root of it to be intentional, knowing what your strengths are, what you would want out of the position, the type of team you're looking to work with, the type of work environment you're looking to do, just as much as they're trying to learn you. And I think, I could have avoided some tough situations if I had been better at asking different questions more related to the work environment, questions related to like whether I would be supported in that environment. So questions I like to ask, if you want to go full in, you could ask like, how do they promote equity and inclusion in the workplace? Ask how diverse the organization is, the team, department, etc. And it's less of what they say and more of how they answer it. So if you're asking questions about, oh, how diverse is the team, especially as a woman entering, a male dominant field, you're wondering, like, am I going to be the only woman in this workplace? And by asking that, if they're like, get really defensive, that tells you a lot about what you're going to experience in that workplace. A lighter question you can ask that doesn't fully say like diversity inclusion, if you don't feel like using those words, you could say something like, what type of people get promoted and how are they celebrated? You could ask like, are people happy and engaged at work? Or do they offer ongoing training and development? So there's a lot of different questions you can ask to take a pulse on whether you would be supported in that work environment. And that goes not just for gender, but other historically marginalized groups. There's ways to ask those kinds of questions to get a little bit of a feel of what you're in for.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you at this point, aren't you? And also you can definitely reach out to people who work for that organization. I think that's if someone who's already kind of in there and is part of the culture to give you feedback. That it might be someone that you've worked with in the past or someone in your network. I think for me, branding is a huge thing, and building kind of that presence on LinkedIn, you might be connected to people who can then connect you to someone else. So yeah, just use that, and sometimes it's not even about applying to a role, it's applying to a person. So if you know that there's someone in the industry that you feel that you could potentially learn from, reach out to them. How can they guide you and support you in that career? So yeah, lots of different ways of navigating that one, I believe. So on to career pathways in the battery industry. So the battery sector is incredibly diverse with career opportunities spanning R&D, engineering, operations, sales, and more. So could you provide an overview of key career pathways across the industry? I guess highlighting your BESS, drones, and various stages of the battery value chain, potentially like materials to recycling, and how opportunities might differ between like a startup and more of an established company. And if I can ask Ajay to jump in there.
Absolutely. So when somebody says that I want to get into battery industry and EV, I always tell them that it's not just a battery engineer or an R&D scientist. It's a cluster, right? It's an ecosystem. When you look at a factory that's being built, say, for example, a gigafactory, you have several disciplines: quality, safety, R&D, production, supply chain, IT with like all kinds of SCADA and finance, HR. And then you look into technicians like machine operators, material handling, maintenance. And then you have this new, which is now one of the fastest growing and required, is EPC, engineering, procurement, and construction, which is like as you have these 5.5 million square feet factories coming up, how do you make sure that you construct it on time and on budget? So that's an ecosystem for one factory. So take that and then multiply that into upstream, midstream, and downstream, which is like all the way from material mining and taking it to production of batteries and like electrodes and separators, and then take it into the upstream, which is like pack level manufacturing, and then end of life recycling, and multiply that into, again, different types of industry, right? Energy storage, EV, defense, aviation. So that's insane amount of career opportunities there. So I think the way you need to look at it is, where do you fit into this ecosystem? and there is opportunity for everybody. But mapping yourself to an ecosystem into where you belong and then approaching companies is much easier for you to find the fit for where you can start growing.
Yeah, definitely. There is so much potential and opportunity in this sector. And it's just, I guess it's about knowing what those opportunities are.
Exactly.
And I guess, you know, when I'm speaking with the candidates that are looking at roles or looking at new opportunities, I talk to them and say, think about companies that you're interested in. So have a target list of businesses. That's my kind of first point of call, because we all see on LinkedIn the number of applications on kind of that, especially with like easy apply and things like that now. So it's about being smart about your job search and how you can kind of open a door in a different way. But like we said, there is so many different parts of the battery value chain, so many different types of roles. And also we're talking about transferable skills. If you're outside of the sector too, what can you bring to the sector? I've worked across different industries, and I know that in the chemical industry, we're looking at people from chemical industry, from semiconductors, automotive, mining, and all bring kind of diverse perspectives. Jill, have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's just so many different jobs in the battery industry. And I think a lot of times you think of, you know, your standard run of the mill, oh, battery scientist, engineer. But there are simply so many. Like you need HR, you need finance, you need, you know, all these others. And I found throughout my career, like my work in, I was just talking to my partner about this. Like I was in marching band in high school, and we learned like when you march, you like roll your feet heel toe. If anyone else has been in marching band, you know what I'm talking about, but it helps stabilize as you walk. And now with my business, like I'm focused on marketing and business development consulting. So like I'm not just using my battery engineer and scientist hat, but I'm also using my camera skills, cinematography, and part of operating a gimbal, which is to stabilize your camera, is to walk stably. And so I'm actually using my like marching band skills to operate a camera. And you just never know like your unique blend of background and expertise and skill sets. Like you never know when that's going to come up. And so I think thinking in a way where you're like, oh, I have to follow this one set career path. Like that's a very rigid way to think. And I think with the volatility in the market right now, the volatility in the jobs, the landscape, the technology is continually progressing, and you know things are very volatile. Unfortunately, we see a lot of layoffs. So it's important to be flexible and to think of even things you may not have had much experience in, or are from a different path or a different background, are applicable, and it may surprise you. It may really surprise you.
I think you've got a point there, but it's also getting that across, because you know you might not even address that in an interview, for instance, but actually using those real life scenarios that make you stand out from someone else that is applying for that role. They'll remember you, won't they? You know, talking about the marching band, for instance.
Yeah.
Very memorable.
You never know.
Exactly.
And that's what we need. We need a diversity of talents in this industry if we're going to overcome the challenges it has. Like, it's not you know, you could go through the standard career path of, you know, getting your bachelor's, getting your master's, getting your PhD, like that works, but that's not the only way. And I think my career story has definitely been a case of like, you could choose your own path. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's definitely an element of saying yes as well, isn't there? To opportunities that maybe you didn't think was on your path. And I know that we've obviously got people from different parts of their career. You know, some individuals are probably moving from academia into industry, and I guess others may already be in roles and looking to kind of progress to the next stage. So another thing that I would say is mentors, speaking with people who've already done the job that you potentially want to apply for next, and understanding what it was that they did to get there. So yeah, there's so many things that you can be doing in this space. I guess Next bit is probably to address some more on kind of green collar workers and transitions. So as our sustainable energy industry expands, the demand for green collar workers is growing rapidly. So what are the biggest challenges in building a skilled local workforce and training them at pace, which is obviously required? I guess, Andrew, can I bring you in on that one, please?
Yeah, maybe I can share a story. I actually spent a couple of months in 2017 at the Gigafactory Nevada plant in Tesla. So it was wild because Tesla and Panasonic hired 7,000 employees in 2 years. And if you do the math, that's about 70 people per week, okay? And what has happened in that factory is going to happen broadly in the US over the next 5 years. And, you can run the numbers, right? Right now, the annual capacity of gigafactories in the US is about 87 gigawatt hours. And by 2030, it's going to be about 10 times that, if you believe the projections. And that's more than 100,000 jobs. And if you do the math on that, that's like 400 new green collar jobs per week that we need to train on. So, even if you don't believe the 10x, even 5x is a huge amount of green collar jobs. So the first takeaway here is this, like, it's really the speed of training that needs to happen, and it's going to be a big challenge for all of us. And the second point is that, a lot of these jobs are localized, okay? So, factories need to hire people to work at the factory. And this is, of course, the case if you're a technician, but it's also probably the case if you're a process engineer. And one of the things I'll talk about later is manufacturing jobs. There's going to be a lot of it. But, one thing that I think you can think about is like, being flexible with your where you live. I know this is not easy for everyone, but there are jobs, but they tend to be localized because of the way the factories work. And finally, going back to challenges. So there's no playbook for how to run a factory right now. I think the landscape is extremely fragmented. So from a training perspective, from a workforce development perspective, that's really challenging. There's no national standard. But I think that also, with every challenge, there's opportunity. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity there. At the Gigafactory, there's so many challenges every day, right? With how to train. There's people that they used to deal cards at the casino, right? Because Reno is a casino town. So they were working in a casino 1 week, and then the next week they're trying to run an electrode line, or they're trying to run a winding machine. And you can think of the challenges that come with training those people. In the US, we also, have a lot of joint ventures with foreign cell makers. So, a lot of challenges with just, things like, equipment error code translation. Like, how do you translate? How do you understand what the equipment's doing? So I think, maybe you won't be working in these jobs, but I think it helps to really, try to understand some of these challenges, because it affects all of us as a community, it affects the industry. And I think I'll leave it at that for kind of, for now.
Yeah, the battery industry is high tech as well. So it really is kind of upskilling people, isn't it? And getting the right training in order to do so. That is a challenge in itself, especially with the numbers that are projected too. Chad, how are you finding it over at American Battery Solutions? What are you doing as an organization?
I think it's interesting how Andrew said there's no direct text as far as running a factory at this point. We're a newer company. We're only about 5 to 6 years old, so we see that constant change and that constant evolution, both from our direction, but also internally for the people that work here and what their roles are and how they expand and how they change on a daily basis. So having that level of flexibility is incredibly important in our industry, and I definitely see that on a regular basis. So yeah, being open to the opportunities within the company is very important.
Great. Yeah. Ajay, have you got anything?
Absolutely.
You're working with some businesses.
Yeah, I think Andrew and I both have the same experience, because I lived the life in Reno, Nevada, working at the gigafactory, right? So bringing in people is a challenge, but then retaining them is even more of a bigger challenge, right? So the training, what you give them, the attrition of any gigafactories right now when they start anywhere can be from 20 to 35, 40%, which is steep. So bringing in all these people and having them stay is an even bigger challenge, because the training, which is very much needed, can also be daunting, because as he said, you bring in a blackjack dealer to an electrode slurry mixing, they're not going to translate any skills there. So when you train them, they're going to get scared. So there has to be a lot of work done in the local community workforce, where we have to bring all of that lessons learned and pain point. And essentially, how do you bring the workers to a day one readiness standpoint? How do you socialize the idea of battery or manufacturing? Part of my current program, we have this initiative called Battery Workforce Training Hub, where we support essentially OEMs going into these greenfield and setting up a factory. But what do they need to be doing so that when they go SOP, start a production, that they have a pipeline clearly established? And these pipelines are not just immediate hiring, that you have to go a layer deeper, right? You have to go into, I'm having people who are ready to work now. That's the current pipeline. Then you look into the emerging pipeline, which is going into colleges, vocational schools, community colleges, and then going a level beyond, going into STEM courses like K through 12, because that's the way we can build a local talent for this green collar or white collar jobs. Because we've lost a generation of manufacturing professionals, and we're trying to bring that back. And it is not one company or one effort. It's going to be a joint effort, which has to emphasize on training, has to emphasize on technology deployment, and also creating multiple pathways so that people are able to join it with less barriers of entry.
Yeah, I really like that. That's something actually that myself and Jill were on a panel the end of last year with Battery Days, just around looking at schools and trying to have an impact from an earlier age. So they know that it's a career pathway, the battery industry, and what programs that they're running internally to support with specific skills like SOP, like technical writing, that can really help with their step into an industry of manufacturing. So yeah, really interesting. If we're finished with that question, I'll move on to advice for early career professionals. So many of our attendees will be kind of in that bracket. What are the key takeaways for those just starting out in their careers? And what would you say to those who may be concerned about the market conditions, which we mentioned? Jill, do you want to touch on that?
Sure. So yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot since we've been planning this panel, just simply because it's hard to share advice for people early in their career, just simply because like the sky's the limit, and I don't know where everyone's coming from starting out. So take my advice with a grain of salt, I guess. But I will comment on first that you are correct, Lauren, and everyone here has been commenting on how volatile and uncertain the market is right now at this time. This is a combination of the new administration in the US, new leadership even in Europe and overseas, different supply chains are vulnerable right now since China owns so much of the market, and so it's a lot of companies are trying to decrease the risk they have with the current market conditions and everything, and so that's why you're seeing a lot of layoffs, volatility in the market. And so if you are just starting out, you're looking for a job and you're seeing all these layoffs, I can imagine it is pretty disheartening and it is very alarming. I think the positives are that we need battery technology no matter who's in office, no matter what year it is. If you watch plots of sci-fi movies, you'll often find like 3,000 years in the future, they still have problems with battery technology. And so that reassures me that, we have some job security there. I think it's a skill set that is only going to be in more demand. Like it's not going away. And I saw somebody comment about, what about hydrogen? And sure, we'll definitely have emerging hydrogen technologies too, but batteries are essential no matter what. And understanding them from first principles is just super important. So if you're coming from a university academic environment, that's important. And then if you're also on the more, we talked about like technician training, that like segment of the workforce, operator training for manufacturing, like that's only going to be more and more because the current administration is trying to bring manufacturing to, I'm talking specifically to the US because I'm there, but I think in general, the manufacturing skills are just going to become more and more vital. And so, yeah, just starting out, I would say the things to focus on is that there's no one right path. There's no one right way to do things. And I've taken the way to follow my curiosity and interests through my career because I find that when I really love what I'm doing and I'm interested in it, I'm going to work hard at it and I'm going to become probably better than I would if I chose something I'm less interested in. And that's worked really well for me, even when I'm redirected because something like I started in fuel cell research. And I don't say, oh, that was a mistake because I went into batteries. I go, I learned a lot in that experience of what I like and didn't like. And I found at that time, batteries were going to be the next thing. And I fell in love with batteries at that point in time. So think of it as each time you're learning and in a new environment, you're taking away what you like and what you don't like, and you're learning what your strengths are. And that becomes the root of how you can help navigate through the volatility is knowing your strengths. And so when companies are saying, oh, we have these challenges, you know how you can help them overcome those challenges through your strengths. Like mine are battery technology, communication in simplified form. So if a company is struggling with, we need to communicate about battery technology, here I am, you know? So it's like, so, but that took me years to figure out. So you're not going to know it when you're just starting out. It's a gradual process and practice. And I will say too, I think the last thing I want to comment on is just how important it is to continually update your skills with the like not just the volatility in the market, but new technologies coming out. I think AI is kind of the big buzz one right now. There'll be more in the future that we haven't even heard of yet. If you're able to keep leveling up, learning skills, that's super important. And using more informal education approaches. So that means out of the classroom, things like online classes. Different organizations are doing like in-person workshops at conferences. They hold workshops. So you don't have to invest into like a 5-year PhD program. You could take a week-long or a couple-day workshop. And on that note, I'm developing a course on battery technology, lithium-ion battery technology. I'll put in the comments how to reach that, but that will be a course that like helps someone learn the landscape about lithium ion cells and the basics of the design, manufacturing, and chemistry. So it can help you get into the field, or if you're questioning like, is this for me? It gives you that taste of it. So, and that's at batterycourses.com if you want to look that up.
Yeah, you're so right, Jill. There's definitely things out there that people can access that are free and online. I think New Energy New York, they've got different programs that you can access. Here in the UK, we've got UK BIC that does courses in person. There's so many influential people in this sector like yourself, Jill, who are doing things to really help and guide early career individuals in this space. I can drop some stuff into the chat shortly, but another one is the Battery Associates, which I mentioned there, Battery MBA, another program that's a little bit more time consuming, but there's definitely stuff out there. I've lost my trail of thought. Anyone else want to address this point?
Absolutely. So I think what Jill said was really cool in terms of know your strengths. And I want to just kind of piggyback on that as well, is know your weaknesses. And I think sometimes people struggle to accept, even though they would know, they'll struggle to accept and they would try to keep going further with that aspect. And that sometimes does not help. As an early career, I immediately decided that I was never going to be an engineer, even though I have an aerospace engineering. I was like, I can never work a day as an engineer. And that was to my benefit, because if I had been an engineer, I would have not succeeded as much. But using that skill set and then kind of pivoting off, getting an MBA and then going into supply chain, which was like very much of a mix of both engineering and the business aspect of it, right? So I think having that pivots is very, very important. and also kind of have a North Star in your mind. I always tell this to my team and anybody who I mentor: work by keeping the end in mind. And you don't have to completely have a crystal ball gaze to know what you're going to be doing in 20 years. Nobody knows. But at least having some sort of a North Star that keeps you guiding that, hey, I'm still running the same path and I'm actually heading towards the right direction, and helps you course correct. That is very, very important. And as an early career, take whatever you get. And what I mean by that is there are times where you can be picky, but when you have to like put your foot into the door, it's much easier for you to climb within an organization or within the industry from a different vantage point to get to where you want, rather than being an outsider. So that's something I absolutely tell all my students and people who come to me for mentorship.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And quick follow-up to this has been an amazing discussion. I want to say it's tough to be early career right now. The struggle is real. And the perspective I want to add is that, when I was working at Tesla, like some of the people I looked up to the most, they lived through a lot of difficult times. Like some of them from the solar industry, they've seen the whole cycle, and I think they carried some of that experience with them, in the next job. So yeah, I do think it's very hard. And yeah, but yeah, well, I think my broader point is maybe about the transferable skills and just focusing on the fundamentals. And I think sometimes you're not sure, like how much time do you spend on like battery stuff, and how much time do you spend on the fundamentals? And it's always a mixture, right? But I think both are important, and I think having a good balance and keeping that long-term view about building your fundamentals while getting upskilled in some of the latest technology and finding that balance is really important.
And attending webinars like this, of course. Yeah. So yeah, career transitions. Some professionals may be looking to transition into the battery space from other industries. What advice do you have for those making a career switch? So Chad, I want to come to you on more of like a business perspective, and then Andrew, if you could just follow up on an academic standpoint, that'd be great.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I could tell my personal story. I've been in the automotive space, or, traditional propulsion systems space for decades. And that, as electrification and e-mobility started to, come about, I had that opportunity to take it upon myself to, do the continuous learning that we mentioned, the continuous training, and just see the evolution of technology. So I've got to experience that myself from, way back in the early 90s of, traditional propulsion, where we are today. It's quite amazing. So having the opportunity to, continue my training and develop my skills that I've already established, that's incredibly important. And then just being open to your transferable skills. So, I mean, I'm in marketing, so I can speak from that perspective, but, project management, trade show management, communications, all these things are skills that I've developed over years and years within the industry, and it transfers into, the electrification space as well with batteries. So just making sure that you're taking advantage of the knowledge base that you already have, and just, evolving and being open to that evolution is important. So that's something that I've done. And I'm at the other side, right? So I'm about 30 years in, so I've got maybe 10 years left. So just having that open-mindedness to continue to learn and be open within the industry. So that's incredibly important.
Yeah. So again, I can talk a bit about the sort of the academic perspective. So I actually recently finished a PhD. So I went the other way around. I started in industry and decided for whatever reason to come back. And I think that, there's a lot of maybe soul searching for academics about like, how do you navigate industry? I think one of the most common pitfalls I see is that when you're in school and when you're in a PhD program, you're taught to wield a really big hammer and find problems to solve. And from a science perspective, that's totally appropriate because we're trying to sharpen the best tools. I think if you want an industry job, you have to not take that attitude. You have to take the attitude that this is an industry problem, and whatever tools are available, I'm going to embody that and help the industry solve that problem. And I think that's what Jill was saying earlier too, and I wanted to echo that. So, so just being really flexible. I know we've said this before, but just be really open-minded about what you work on. I think that's a first step, because like we're all really passionate, right, as like PhD students about the tools we build, but don't go to a career fair and say like, I am working on something very specific. Do you have a role for that? Because the answer is probably no, right? But if you take the perspective of like, I've done my research about what the company is struggling with, right? And I'm super excited to help you solve the problem, no matter what I do, right? Or no matter what I need to do for that. So is maybe shifting perspectives about like, is a PhD needed for those people who are currently in PhD programs or thinking about what to do? Or I have a realist view and an idealist view. Okay, so the realist view is look at your competition and decide how competitive you are with and without a PhD. If you really want a research role, right? If you want to do cell modeling, if you want to do materials development, you know, chemistry and actually power electronics, there's a surprisingly large number of, you know, PhD holders with those disciplines. So you probably need a PhD. But if you're doing mechanical engineering, process engineering, test engineering, manufacturing automation, software, systems architecture, I don't think it's needed. I think that you will probably get more mileage if you try to go into industry right away. And my idealist view of is a PhD needed is that it's a false dichotomy, and like a PhD doesn't entitle you to a job. Focus on growing yourself and, you know, finding the roles for that. So yeah, so I think that's my view. I know there's been a lot of questions on the chat about specific, you know, PhD student. Like it's really tough out there. I just want to say I'm with you, and it's really hard. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really insightful, actually, and hopefully that can help our listeners with maybe the path if they are currently thinking about doing a PhD or currently pursuing one. Yeah, it's really helpful. Thanks so much for that. So I guess this is for individuals kind of building on a successful career. Long-term career growth is essential. And what are your tips for success in the battery industry? If I can pass that over to Chad.
Long-term, I'm sorry, it was long-term growth. Yes. So I think that's kind of what we reiterated before as far as that open-mindedness and that continuing to learn, you know, and there's so many different transferable skills that, you know, I've had throughout my career. So I think that, you know, there's many different roles within the organization. So having, you know, that openness to, you know, learning new things cross-functionally within your company, you know, not, as I think Andrew had indicated, not being so specific as far as, you know, I'm working on this project and this is what I'm looking for. I think that having that open-mindedness and that willing to, you know, expand your horizons as far as the different things that you get involved in is incredibly important. And I think that definitely extends the opportunities for you in your career and possible enjoyment. And you might find things that, you know, you never knew that you enjoyed before, and now all of a sudden it's your favorite thing. So I think just being open to new things and new technologies within your own company is important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Jill, do you have anything to add on that?
Sorry, what was the question initially?
Yeah, it was just around kind of long-term success and any tips for our industry to be successful long-term.
I think knowing what the root of the challenges are in the industry is a great start. So I would check out it's called the Liebridge Industry Report. It was written in 2022, published 2023, outlines 5 goals: attract investment to the industry, resource security, securing supply chains, workforce development, public-private partnerships, and innovation support. That's what's needed, not just in the US, but globally to support the battery industry, and understanding like where you want to fit in that long term and where you want to work with other people and collaborate. We need to collaborate. So when it comes to thinking long term, like I said, knowing your strengths, communicating your learning, communicating your curiosity as you some people have commented they've seen my YouTube channel. So I'm very active on different platforms like YouTube and LinkedIn, and that's been very, very good to me over the years. I don't like standard like apply for jobs anymore. The opportunities come to me, which is incredible. It saves me a lot of time and energy. So as you build your career and your network, people are going to get to know you, your strengths, and establish essentially your personal brand. And that becomes your kind of engine for opportunities and also for solving challenges with other people in the industry. I think if you think of it as one-sided, as like, what can a career give me, like a high salary or something like that, you're going to lose sight of where you can actually make the biggest impact. And with impact comes the kind of success that you're looking for in and of itself. So as you're going through, keep an open mind. I've faced many obstacles in my career with people telling me what I can or can't do, most of it because of gender bias, and just know that no one has the authority to tell you what you're capable of, what you're good at. You know yourself the best, and to trust yourself through the process. And I saw somebody in the comments saying, persistence. I would say grit and perseverance, and not taking no for an answer are all things to do. You're going to run into obstacles. That's normal. Finding a support system and people around you who are your cheerleaders are the ones to like surround yourself with. So if you're in a company, you want to be on a supportive team, and that's going to accelerate your success faster than beating against like the tide, with a team that's not supportive.
Yeah, I love that. I think community is a huge thing, and being part of something where you can lean on other people too. I would say being part of the conversation as well, going to conferences and putting yourself out there, building confidence in the sector too by speaking to as many people. And no, we all know this, but we still worry about it. No question is a stupid question. Ask the questions and keep doing it until you build up that confidence to start answering those questions. Absolutely. Ajay, Andrew, do you want to chime in on any of this?
Yeah, if I may. So we're still talking about how to build a successful career, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm
Okay.
just looking at the time now. We haven't actually got that long left.
Yeah. I'll try to make it. Yeah. Maybe I'll just try to keep this brief, but I think it's related to the next question too, Lauren.
Definitely. Yeah. Great.
So for the 2024 battery talent census, we got 1,000 industry professionals to answer the question. In your opinion, what are the top skills that contributed to your success? So we literally asked this question for people currently working in the industry. And the result shocked me. And this result is not published yet, but I'll share it now. But we're going to publish a bigger report later this year. So there's 6 top skills are all soft skills. So we asked them, we didn't give people like specific options to choose from. We just asked them to write down what they think are important. And we analyze the result using a large language model. But the first skill, curiosity, willingness to learn, continuous learning. Second skill, problem solving, critical thinking, analytical thinking. Third skill, communication, presentation, public speaking, leadership, management, team management, personal attributes, adaptability, networking. So it is fascinating to me because we ask the same question to like people who are like students who are like, we ask them, what do you think are the most important skills? And they say technical things like data analysis, right? So the technical skills are important, but like clearly from the data, the people, who are in the industry attribute their personal success to soft skills. And I think that is an encouraging message to us because these skills are not industry specific, right? They're going to be with you for the rest of your lives, no matter what you work on. And I think that if we focus our attitude on like building those skills, maybe I know there's a lot of angst right now with like battery stuff, but I think it's nice to take that perspective.
Yeah, and you can definitely learn those skills as well. You can like I said, build confidence in some of those areas. Those softer skills are things that you can learn. So amazing, thank you. So this brings me to the last question, and we'll keep it brief because I really want to have time for Q&A. But what are the emerging job roles and skills we should expect in the next 5 to 10 years? And I guess I'm going to open the floor. Ajay, do you want to chime in?
Absolutely. I think this probably might be a good closing from a question standpoint. Just in 2025, there are going to be 10 gigafactories coming up live in the United States. That's close to, I think, 430 gigawatt hour. Thumb rule, worked in a gigafactory before, it's anywhere from 90 to 100 people per gigawatt hour. So multiply that into 420 essentially. So you're going to have a lot of demand for these. So as a person coming into this industry, do your research and look into where these gigafactories are coming out. It's across United States. And then when you drill down into it, you're going to look into what are the jobs requirement. And that's what me, Andrew, and everybody here shared. It's going to be an ecosystem of jobs ranging from core battery engineers to technicians, to scientists, to software, HR, all the ancillary supporting roles in that ecosystem. So do that research, get into what you want. And I would say the roles that are going to evolve here right now are, a lot of looking into energy storage is coming in. So how do you now take this battery and use it for a function? And energy storage is going to be one of the biggest requirement for 2025 plus. So look into that. There's a lot of opportunities there, and a lot of urban mobility is coming up. Companies like Supernal, Archer. So how do they take battery and then mix it with aerospace essentially, and how are they making that happen? So a lot of new chemistry essentially is evolving. So look into that. Argon and is actually working on sodium ion and through a lens consortium. So that's taking off. So I think those are the areas I would look and start looking into if you're especially looking for a job and wanting to grow in 2025.
Thank you so much. Right, I'm going to dive into the Q&A. So this is a question from Tobias. In which industry segments do the panelists currently see the largest potential? Disappeared. Sorry. It's just disappeared from me. Which areas do we see as the biggest potential in investments? Which part of the sectors segments? Any thoughts? Where we're seeing more kind of investment?
Manufacturing, battery energy storage system market is booming right now in the US too, because the grant funding, you have, I would say less so battery recycling, less so battery R&D, unfortunately. I'm speaking more in the US. More industrialization of batteries. That's what's needed right now over R&D. Though I would argue that we need R&D just as much.
Yeah, that's definitely something I'm seeing as well. Battery energy storage systems, data centers, that seems to be quite a hot spot currently. Recycling, kind of towards the back end of last year, I thought that the potential more investment there. I think it's slowed down slightly a little bit here.
They're struggling.
Yeah. And then where else? Probably more kind of like you say, manufacturing side of things.
And it's important to know too, the battery industry itself, the jobs that the battery industry creates, like the products that are powered by batteries, that's 20 times bigger than the battery industry itself. So like the jobs there, I think, because the US, I'm speaking more from that person. In Europe, like they're getting the cells coming in and they're making products from those cells. So there's a lot more jobs when it comes to like testing and validation and putting the products into devices and stuff. There's a lot there, and using the battery in field, in operation, gathering data, making sure it's serviced correctly, all of that will be big too.
Just looking through some more questions. So yeah, this is an interesting one from Suraj. I'm looking for a techno-functional role in batteries. I mean, I don't want to go deep into the techno side, but be more on the commercial side of things. What career options would be suitable?
He can be a program manager. Program manager goes different ways. You can be customer facing, or you can also be internal facing, being that technical development, essentially bringing in the customer requirements. How do you translate that to your internal team? Be that conduit. It's probably one of the most fulfilling, I would say, having that direct hands on both commercial and the engineering technical side, I would say. And then you have sales development, business development aspect of it, where you have to understand the um, you know, technicalities, and then also be that business person to sell that product out. I would say those two would be like top, essentially.
Yeah, technical project management roles,
Yeah.
definitely. This for Jill, from Michael. Do you think it is necessary to cut your teeth in a technical role before you can transition to a more communication-focused role with a hard technical background, such as a PhD? Or is there a path to go from academia to a more people-focused role in the battery industry?
I had the advice years ago because I had interest in going into policy or like informal education, was you start in policy and then you get a little bit of science, or you start at education, you get a little bit of science, but you're known as the education person or the policy person, or you start technical and you become a scientist and then you're known for the policy. And I went obviously the route of becoming the scientist, getting the patents, having that experience under my belt before going into policy. I find when I anchor myself in my battery scientist skill set and expertise, I'm taken more seriously. It might be a gender thing. So I would say it's definitely more respected, I think, in this technical field to be a battery scientist and engineer first before you go into a different field. But there's no wrong way to go, really. So
Great advice. And then this, I think I'm going to go last question. Vida, learned that referrals are a much better way to proceed in the job application rather than doing cold applications for job boards or company websites. So they would like to know, how should they make an effective contact that could result in a referral? Well, I've got my thoughts on that. LinkedIn is a fantastic place to start, building your network through that. Again, connecting with people, referring to maybe somewhere they've worked, want to hear more about what they're doing, be inquisitive, learn more about what they're about, and apply to a person rather than a job necessarily. I think I mentioned it earlier on, just there's a lot of people applying for opportunities and probably disheartened because they haven't heard back due to the easy apply on LinkedIn. I always say thousands of people can just click that button and an application is obviously submitted. So yeah, I would say that applying to a person rather than a specific job, you're going to have a better way of opening a door. Great. Okay, well, look, we're nearly at the end of the session, and I just really want to thank you all for joining today. I especially want to thank the panelists. You've been absolutely incredible. Really appreciate all your insights and thought and time that you've put into this. Look, I guess the reason behind this webinar was to support with the Battery Career Fair, which will be in April, on the 3rd of April. Where you can actually connect with Chad and the team there. You will be attending, won't you, Chad, and the team at American Battery Solutions. So looking forward to obviously having you there and joining us for the Battery Career Fair. But yeah, thanks again for your time today. Some of the other networking events are just being posted in the chat now. But yeah, we wish you all the best with your careers. And yeah, look forward to seeing you at the next events.